Thank you all for being here, because it takes a lot of reorganizing your lives and your schedules, kids, jobs, work, you name it, to turn up here, and flights and high winds and delayed flights and all of that. So some of us experience, but it's all part of the game. We said it a bit earlier. It's not what happens to you in life that counts, but how you react to it. And the measure of a person is what it takes to stop them. And I had the honor and the pleasure of working with Jim Rohn. I don't know how many of you remember him. Unfortunately, he left us about 5 years ago on December the 5th. But he was the granddaddy of the motivation and the speaking industry, along with Earl Nightingale and Vic Conant and the like. And I had the pleasure of touring Asia with him on multiple occasions. And he's known for saying many things, but he always said, and one thing that stuck with me, is if you really want to do something, you will find a way. And if you really don't want to do something, you'll find an excuse. And the fact that you're all here live in person means you found a way of being here in the hope and the expectation, perhaps, and as Casey correctly said, that we can't guarantee that, but in the hope and the anticipation that you're going to find a new way of doing things that will serve you better than what you've been doing up till now. Every deal we're going to look at today and tomorrow is available in the market. If we choose to, we could buy it. Do I think we should buy 50% of them or 60%? Probably not. In order to buy one property, you might think you can look at 3 and choose the best one or the least bad one, and you could go down that route, but then you've got the best of 3 properties. I always say, for me, to find one really good deal, residential, commercial, anything, I have to look at 100 properties and filter through them to find just 10 that I'm even willing to put an offer in on. Does that mean you'll have 10 offers accepted? No. What does it tell you if all 10 of your offers were accepted? Anyone? You're offering too much. Yeah. Today is more about how do I go about finding buildings? How do I put them in the hopper? How do I evaluate them? What makes me think, if I've got 100 properties on a list, which 5 should I choose to look at? So again, the first thing I notice on this is it's a great location in terms of visibility from the street. You've got 2 major arterial routes. That's one thing you can't see in a photo, how heavy the traffic is. It's pretty obvious that is a major, look at it, traffic blocked up all the way down there. Yeah. 2 lanes in each direction with a turning lane, it seems. This one's not as busy, but a lot of visibility, a lot of people enjoying the park there. They'll all see the fact that it's a car wash. I think that augurs well because it makes everyone aware of it. And then it's just a matter of, do they do a good job as to whether people come back. I wonder, Graham, if we can find out if the owner is here, the owner of the business.
Hi, this is Todd Rosen.
Hey Todd, my name is Dolf. I'm standing outside the car wash that you've got as a property for sale. And I've just got a couple of questions. I could see a number of figures on your listing, like the purchase price of just over 1.9 million. I understand it's still got about 9.5 years to run on the lease, but my question is, what is the lease amount at the moment? Is it that $12,000 a month, did I see?
It's about that, yeah, $12,000 net.
So is it a triple net lease?
It is.
So the tenant pays property taxes, insurance, and maintenance?
Correct.
Okay, that's really the main question here, because I saw property taxes on your listing was about just over 12,000, I think. And
sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay, so net to the purchaser it's 140 for a year then, which on nearly 2 million would be about a 7% return, yeah.
Yeah, it's about a 7.25% return, yes.
Okay. And the operator is keen to stay on, or is he looking at selling the business? Any idea?
Yeah, from time to time, they've talked about selling it, and I actually think that they might have their business on the market for sale now. I'm not sure, but I think so.
Uh-huh.
And they've been they were the tenant the whole time, and they're kind of in the car wash business. They own another one over in Aurora, and then they're involved in car washes in California as well.
Oh, okay. So they've got good history in it, yeah. It seems a great location. Just street visibility is fabulous.
Yeah. And is this for yourself? Are you looking at buying it for yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And are you a car wash operator or a real estate investor?
Purely a real estate investor. So
okay.
I would want to retain a lease on there. That's why I'm asking what their interest is in staying.
Yeah, well, they're obligated to stay.
Well, yes, but there's a difference between we love it, we want to stay, versus we can't wait to get out. and sell it to anyone who.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the only, reason I asked that. No, I understand they're on a lease, so technically they've got to stay there. And the fact that they run others seems to indicate they know the business well, so that's all good.
Yeah, I've never thought, I've been involved in it since they moved in, and I've never felt that they did a great job running the business, but they've always paid their rent, and they've paid every penny due for the entire time.
Right. Okay, great. All right, well, I'm just going to walk around a bit up the street and down the street and have a look. And if I have any further questions, I'll call you back if that's okay.
Sounds good. Thanks for the call.
All right, thank you too. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, but so far pretty good, right? 7.1% return. Is that great or not? It's not. It doesn't keep me awake at night, like I've got to get this. It's just 7%.
Yeah.
So I can't see anything right now that we could do to dramatically change that. And I'm hoping today we'll strike something where we can say, oh my gosh, if we did this, suddenly things are going to change. And you'll see what I mean. You can imagine it now, but when you see it, suddenly it changes our perception. So I think we're good here, and let's get back in the van and we'll go to the next one. Can we offer this existing car wash facility to a place like Jet Splash or any of those many companies that offer, for a monthly fee, you get as many car washes as you want? And the advantage of that is they already have their model set up. They don't need to scout around for a new property. This has already got a reputation as a car wash facility, so they'd benefit from that. They'd probably have more revenue. The rent could go from 12 to 14. When it goes from 12 to 14, that's a quarter increase. We'd be at nearly 10% return. It's starting to look good. If I were living here, one of the things I do is call a local Jet Splash type operation and say, hey, are you guys looking at expanding at all? I'm looking at buying a car wash facility, but I think it would be better with your branding on it, and I'd be looking at finding a tenant. We know that they're looking at selling, right? We haven't invested much time in this. 20 minutes this morning, if that, and 30 minutes driving here and having a quick look. So we're not even in it for an hour. I think with another hour, we could know whether Jet Splash would be willing to rent that for $14, $15 a month. Remember, it's a numbers game. There's nothing wrong with saying no. On the weekends, we'd get people through the car wash. We'd have a brush to clean all the hubcaps that we had in those days. And then we'd program it all and whatever they'd ask for. Now it's all automated. But I don't think, without looking at that car wash at 1.95 million or whatever it was, that we would have come across the thought that maybe there are other car washes at a cheaper price. And Owen found them at $300,000. And, we can...
Also was key on that.
Right.
Wow, yeah, you're right.
And none of us, when we started, I said, let's see if there are any car washes at 300,000, because nearly 2 million sounds a lot for us. But it's by looking at this one and driving there and being accosted by the guy who said, do you know the owner? And Graham bravely said, yes. And, and I love that. And, he said he hadn't heard from him. Well, we're trying to keep our things, quiet. I don't know whatever answer you could have given. But anyway, we wouldn't have found a $300,000, and at a $300,000 price point, I think this could be viable, especially if we use that other model who came up with it? I want to acknowledge the source, I think it was you, Micah, that it was, we can lease it out to one of these people that does a monthly subscription. They've become really popular in Phoenix. I forget the names of them there, because as I told you, I don't really go to car washes as often as I should. But I can see that model would work. And it's a great location, the one we saw, but I don't want to pay that much money for it. Doesn't matter. You go down one path and you find another one. If I'm looking for things that are there, like it's got to have a roof with at least 2 pictures on it and it's got to be colored brown, we'd all know how we can go about finding that. I'm looking for things that aren't there. What do I mean by that? If a building sells typically at a cap rate, do you all know what a cap rate is? Do you know that it's short for capitalization rate? It's the rate at which you capitalize the rental income to arrive at the value. Unfortunately, especially in this country, many people often use the cap rate interchangeably with the ROI or the return. They say it's selling at a cap rate of 5%. What they really mean is it's selling at a return of 5%. I would ask, okay, if it's selling at a return of 5%, what are cap rates in that area? What are the market cap rates? What is the multiple by which investors are willing to spend money to buy that cash flow, that income? So if a building's got a return of 5% and market cap rates are 6%, that's sort of interesting to me. Do you follow what I'm saying? So cap rate. So if a building is selling at a cap rate, market cap rates now in commercial 5%, that's sort of roundabout where it's at. I can't justify that. Mortgage money is going to cost me about 5%. Certainly by the time I add property taxes, insurance, a couple of maintenance items, I'm breaking even. But if I can see that I can change it because, and some of the examples I use are, well, I use them over and over. There's a thrift store in this commercial building paying $12 a foot in rent. And they're not doing very well. They're kind of struggling. But I know from the foot traffic that goes by and the vehicular traffic, it would be an ideal coffee shop location. Starbucks, Seattle's Best, Pete's, Gloria Bean, or an independent. And they're willing to pay, or the market pays $24 a foot for them. I know that if I buy that building and I can change the rents from $12 a foot to $24 a foot, the value of the building doubles because market cap rates are still the same 5%. So I look for things that aren't there, and I have special spectacles for those. I sell these at this event. They're $25,000 a pop. When you put these on, suddenly you can see where, but without them, you see a thrift store. With them, man, you see a coffee shop. And just the thought of it makes you want coffee. It's just, no, I'm being a bit silly, but I'll give you the skills in these 2 days to have the equivalent of glasses that would cost you 25 grand. What would you be willing to pay if these existed? What would they be worth to you? So here's the play on a piece of land like this, guys. If you can make it cash flow based on purchase price with the rental you get from parking lots, I get the feeling these aren't used that regularly. It's just been sitting idle. But here's the thing, if you can just break even on the land, with time, the land's going to keep on going up in value, even if it's going to be a bit of a dip coming up now. And in 10 years' time, you'll sell this for way more than you paid for it. Or you could probably, sell it with a development plan in place. Or do something you suggested earlier, offer the land as your portion of a joint venture, someone else puts in the money to build on it, and then you share in the ownership. So again, it boils down to numbers, and at the end of the day, you've got to get used to finding out what the numbers are. Do what Owen does regularly and just call and call. That's useful. Is it useful to know that sold next door for 1.1 million? Yep. And if that's sold for 1.1 million, should the land here sell for 900,000? No, of course not. So it's all a matter of numbers. And what we've been doing today is looking at what I'd call the lower end of the market, between about $500,000 for your storage facility in the basement, up to 1.9 million for the car wash. Notwithstanding that we think we can do a lot better by buying one at 300,000 and then doing a deal with Jet Splash or something. But what we'll do tomorrow is we're going to ramp it up and look at some bigger value properties. I didn't want to start with that in case it freaks you out. 30 million for a hotel? Who would pay that? Well, investors do. Again, it doesn't matter what the absolute values is. It depends on the ratios. It depends on the percentages. So if you can make it cash flow, I don't care whether it's a $59,000 building or a $59 million building. If it cash flows, you can justify getting the finance for it. And even if you bought before the crash, like I bought a stack of properties in 2006, so a couple of years before the crash, and they went down in value to below what I paid for them, and I could have handed the keys back to the bank. But I hung on, and now they're worth like 3 times what they were worth when I got them. It's just hanging on. Yeah, the exit strategy is bequeathing it now. It's no longer death. This parking lot looks as though it hasn't been used in forever. It's neither good nor bad, guys. It just is. Who knows what the history is? Maybe the church is not in use, and maybe they just need some cash and they're selling this off for 100 grand. And we can make this work at 100 grand. Another thing, we could decide right now, how much is this parking lot worth to us? And then when we find the price, if it's above what we think it's worth, we don't buy it. But if it's even $1 below, we buy it. We could do that. I prefer to look at all the possibilities and spend some time here. Who would we lease it to? I'd go to but where do all these apartment dwellers park their cars? If they don't have on-site parking, you might be able to rent it out to them for extraordinarily good figures. Or we might turn it into a big carport, just put vertical poles up with, concrete to settle them, and then put some roofing to keep them out of the sun and out of the rain. That makes them worth a lot more for rentals. If you had one question right now, what would it be? Do you want to relate how this works to a $40 million building?
Yes, I want to know.
Well, that's what we're going to get into tomorrow in terms of the difference of... No, but I'm just saying, are you interested? Because in essence, it's the same. And I don't want you to freak out when the numbers are big. Thank you for being here for this part of the session. We're very excited because this is where the rubber meets the road. At the end of the day, we can theorize and talk about what we would do in contracts and whether we bring lawyers in or not. But at the end of the day, we've got to find properties, we've got to look at them, we've got to analyze them, we've got to make a decision. Do we want to have a crack at buying them? We've got to put offers in. If the offers are accepted, we've got to finance them. And if all that works, we've got to go ahead to closing and then make sure there are tenants in place or get tenants. Sounds like a lot of work, but just remember this. You might put 100 hours or 200 hours into buying a commercial property, and then until your dying breath, it'll generate rental income for you. And I know that applies to residential as well, but commercial, for all the reasons I've been discussing all along while we've been on this program, it is just so much easier. So anyway, thank you for being here. We will see you again at our next session and hopefully have some exciting things to share with you as to what we will have found. Thank you all. We'll see you soon.